I want you to close your eyes for a second. Imagine a natural disaster. A hurricane, maybe, or a volcanic eruption.
Okay.
It's destructive, it's terrifying, but at the end of the day, it's impersonal. The volcano doesn't hate you.
Right, it just is. It's just forces of nature doing their thing. You can't negotiate with a hurricane.
Exactly. Now, imagine that disaster is a person. A person who was designed by a massive corporation to bottle up pure, unadulterated human aggression. And then imagine the bottle breaks. And that hurricane, it develops a very specific, very personal grudge against the people who made it.
That is a terrifying image. And looking at the stack of documents we have today, it's actually the perfect description of our subject.
We are doing a deep dive into Rasheeda Jones.
Also known by the absolutely chilling codename the Berserker.
Or Acid R3 if you're looking at the colder corporate side of things.
Right, she's a core member, and you could argue the most volatile member of the Terra Squad in the dystopian landscape of 2106.
We have a massive amount of material to get through today. We're not just looking at a biography here. We've got recovered personnel dossiers, security logs from the E.D.E.N. Corporation.
Which is a whole rabbit hole itself.
Oh, absolutely. And we also have these really gritty underground transmissions from a journalist named Yomi. He runs a broadcast called The Naked Truth.
And I have to say, Yomi really provides the soul of this narrative, because the corporate logs, they just see Rasheeda as a broken tool.
A malfunction.
A malfunction to be written off. But Yomi, he sees her as something almost mythic.
So our mission today is to figure out what actually makes her tick. Because on the surface, she just looks like a blunt instrument of violence. But the dossiers mention a calculus to her rage. And I don't know if that's just fancy wording or if there's, actual math behind the madness.
Oh, there is definitely math. But before we unleash the Berserker, we have to set the stage. We need to understand the world that built her.
Right. So 2106, the United States as we know it is gone. It's now the Federation City-States.
Which sounds orderly, but the geography is completely split. You have these gleaming, high-tech, utopian metropolises run by mega corporations. It's clean, it's safe, it's controlled.
But outside those walls,
you have the fringe zones, slums, ruins, the leftovers.
And sitting at the top of this whole food chain is the E.D.E.N. Corporation. Now, looking at these files, E.D.E.N. has its fingers in everything. But specifically, they're running something called the Godseed Project.
And that name alone is a massive red flag.
It is. It sounds so benevolent, doesn't it? Godseed.
But the reality is much, much darker. Based on the recovered data, this project is about harvesting children. Specifically, they're targeting high melanin children, Black and Latino kids from the fringe zones.
Okay, why? Why that specific demographic? Is it just social targeting?
It's actually biological, according to their own scientists. They claim that the genetic markers in these specific populations are more compatible with E.D.E.N.'s proprietary nanotech.
So they're not recruiting soldiers here?
No, not really. They are patenting biology. They take these kids and try to turn them into living, breathing bioweapons.
That is incredibly disturbing. They're treating human beings like hardware platforms.
That is literally their business model. And Rasheeda Jones is classified as one of their escaped successes.
Okay, let's unpack her origin story. Because we've covered other members of the Terra Squad, and usually they're recruited because they're geniuses, or they have psychic abilities, or, they're tactical masterminds.
But Rasheeda's file is different.
Very different.
She wasn't recruited for her intellect, although she isn't unintelligent, not at all. She was recruited for her survival instinct. She comes from Fringe Urban Zone 12,
which the locals affectionately call the Pits.
And the name is earned. The descriptions of Zone 12 are brutal. Toxic runoff, constant gang warfare, zero resources. E.D.E.N.'s own behavioral analysis notes that by age 14, Rasheeda's aggression wasn't a pathology.
Right, it wasn't anger issues.
No, they called it a survival algorithm.
I love that phrase in the dossier. She learned to scream back. It implies the world was screaming at her first.
That's the key. She learned that in the pits, if you don't fight, you disappear. So E.D.E.N. surveillance sees this angry, fighting teenager who refuses to stay down, and they think,
we can monetize that.
Exactly.
See, that's the corporate hubris right there. Look at that traumatized child fighting for her life. Let's put a barcode on it.
They saw a fight response they wanted to patent. But here's the problem, and this is where the Berserker mythos really begins. You can't just install super strength into someone with that much rage and expect them to follow orders.
I assume they tried to. fix that?
They tried. The medical logs detail a procedure to install limbic dampeners into her brain.
Limbic dampeners. So basically a remote control for her emotions.
Think of it as an emotional mute button or a governor on an engine. They wanted to strip away the volatility and leave just the obedience.
You wanted a docile weapon.
A docile weapon. But looking at these post-op reports, catastrophic failure seems to be the headline.
It was a disaster.
The notes describe the attempt like trying to cap a volcano with a cork.
And we all know how that ends. The cork doesn't just pop, the pressure builds until the whole mountain blows.
That's exactly what happened physiologically. The dampeners didn't just fail, they fried. The neural feedback loop actually made her aggression hotter.
It concentrated it.
Right. But E.D.E.N., in their arrogance, they kept her operational. They thought, well, she's unstable, but she's powerful, we can still aim her.
Until the turning point. There's a specific file here marked Suppressed Incident Reports. This seems to be the moment Asset R3 becomes the Berserker.
This is the pivotal moment. Rasheeda was deployed on a fringe pacification raid. Standard corporate bullying.
Go into a slum, scare the locals, assert dominance.
Exactly. But during the raid, she watched her squad leader execute an elder for non-compliance.
And that triggered the algorithm.
It triggered everything. You have to remember, she is from the fringe. She saw herself in those people. The report says she didn't just attack her commanding officer, she disassembled the operation.
Disassembled is such a clinical word for what sounds like absolute carnage.
It was calculated chaos. She turned their heavy weapons on their own transport vehicles. She used their tactical formations against them to create choke points. And then she walked into the ruins.
Not as a savior.
No, she didn't give a speech. She walked in as a force of nature. Yomi describes it perfectly in his broadcast. The tool striking the hand.
That brings us to what she can actually do.
Yeah.
Because disassembling a military squad requires more than just being really, really angry. Let's talk about the hardware. What is the Godseed Protocol Series 2?
This is where the sci-fi horror comes in. Rasheeda is a powerhouse. Her specific enhancement is called Adrenal-Nanite Symbiosis.
Okay, break that down for us. Symbiosis means they work together, right?
Correct. Usually nanites, these microscopic machines in the blood, they run on a battery or the body's glucose. But Rasheeda's nanites are fueled by adrenaline and cortisol, the stress hormones.
So the angrier she gets?
The stronger, faster, and more durable she becomes. Her rage literally powers her biology. She is an engine that runs on fury.
That creates a terrifying feedback loop. She gets hit, she gets mad, she gets stronger, she hits back harder.
And she is incredibly hard to put down. She has accelerated cellular regeneration. She heals from ballistic and energy wounds in seconds. But there's a fascinating tactical note here. It mentions she can strategically spend her healing factor.
Wait, what does that mean? Spend it? Like a currency?
That's a great way to put it. Healing takes energy. It takes focus. The logs show that she fights with zero regard for self-preservation. She will intentionally take a critical hit.
Like letting a blade go through her shoulder?
Or take a plasma blast to the chest, just to get close enough to deliver a killing blow.
She uses her own body as bait.
Yes. She knows she'll heal, so she trades damage for position. It's terrifyingly efficient. Most soldiers fight to avoid getting hit. Rasheeda fights assuming she will get hit, and she factors that into her plan.
That is, wow, it's almost suicidal but calculated.
And that leads to the term the combat experts use for her fighting style: kinetic algebra.
I saw that. Kinetic algebra. It sounds like a paradox. Rasheeda seems like pure chaos, a berserker, but algebra implies math, logic.
That's the biggest misconception about her. People think she's just flailing wildly, blinded by a red mist, but the analysis says she has combat clairvoyance. She views a fight like a math problem.
How so? Like she's calculating angles.
Deeper than that, think about a complex equation. You have variables you need to isolate or remove. To Rasheeda, every enemy in the room, every weapon, every obstacle is a variable.
And the pain, what's the pain?
Pain is just a coefficient. It changes the value of the variable, but it doesn't stop the equation. She doesn't think in the traditional sense, she reacts with perfect, violent efficiency. She is solving the equation of the fight by removing the variables, the enemies, as fast as possible.
So it's not mindless, it's hyper-processing.
Exactly, it's a flow state, a blur of controlled fury. And looking at the visuals in the dossier, this is reinforced by her appearance. She has this distinctive burn mark tracing her temple.
Yeah, I'm looking at the photo now. It looks like a lightning strike scar.
Likely a scar from the failed Limbic Dampener installation, or maybe a battle wound she refused to fully heal to keep as a reminder. It just adds to that visual of her as Hurricane with a grudge.
So you have this living weapon who solves problems with extreme violence. How on earth does she function in a team? We know she's part of the Terra Squad, but surely she's a nightmare to manage.
Quotient is a strong word. She is officially listed as the volatile element of the group. Her role is high-impact defensive. She's the one disrupting supply lines, blowing up convoys.
Okay, shock it off.
But within the squad dynamics, she creates a massive amount of friction.
I'm looking at the logs regarding Maliki. He's the team's tactician, right? The leader.
Right. Maliki is ex-military, very disciplined, all about structure and drills. And then you have Rasheeda, who is just raw chaos.
That sounds like a buddy cop movie waiting to happen.
But with way higher stakes, the contrast is fascinating. Malaki's job, according to the logs, is often just helping the team stay alive around Rasheeda.
Oh.
He's constantly shouting orders that she just ignores. Yomi's notes call her a self-guided munition with a faulty targeting system. Malaki is constantly trying to keep that munition pointed at the enemy and not at the infrastructure.
And then you have Tank. The guy is literally named Tank. I assume he's the defensive line.
Leon Jenkins, aka Tank. The dynamic between him and Rasheeda is interesting because they are opposites physically. Tank relies on heavy armor, he negates damage, he blocks it.
Whereas Rasheeda relies on healing, she recovers from damage.
So Tank is the shield, and Rasheeda is the spear.
In a way.
Tank holds the line so she can break theirs. He's probably the only one who can physically step in her way if she goes too far. It's a delicate balance. The squad needs her firepower, but they're constantly worried she's going to burn everything down.
But despite all this living weapon talk and the kinetic algebra, there's a moment in the Fringe transmissions that really stopped me.
Oh.
It's a quiet scene. It's called the barber's chair.
Yes. This is crucial. If you want to understand her humanity, you have to look at this scene. It's easy to get lost in the superpowers, but this grounds her.
So paint the picture for us. Where is she?
She goes to see this guy, Otis, in Soul City. Soul City is this underground sanctuary for the Resistance, a place E.D.E.N hasn't crushed yet. And Otis is the barber.
A barbershop is such a classic community hub, a safe space.
Precisely. Rasheeda comes in after a mission, and reading the description, she is vibrating. She's buzzing with adrenaline. She smells like ozone and burnt electronics. Covered in soot, she's still in Berserker mode.
And what does she do? Does she brag about the fight?
No. She sits in the chair, and she says one word. Fade.
Just fade.
That's it. And Otis, he understands. He doesn't ask for intel. He doesn't ask how many E.D.E.N guards she dismantled. He just gives her silence. The text says he shapes the energy around her. He starts cutting her hair, the buzz of the clippers matching the buzz in her nervous system.
That hits hard. It's like, when the fight stops, where does all that rage go?
That's the tragedy of her design. When you are built for war, peace is physically painful. That scene reveals her vulnerability. The rage has nowhere to go but inward. She needs the squad, and she needs places like Otis's chair to keep from consuming herself.
She needs a purpose for the chaos.
Or she'll burn out. It really humanizes her. She's not just a monster, she's a person who was forced to be a monster and is trying to live with it. She's a victim of the system who decided to become the system's nightmare.
And that brings us to the psychology of it all. Why does she fight? I mean, really, is it for some abstract ideal? Freedom? Democracy?
Yomi has a philosophical take on this. He calls her the primal equation.
Yomi always has a philosophical angle. But practically speaking.
Practically, Rasheeda isn't fighting for some high-minded concept of peace. She doesn't give speeches about liberty. She fights because she hates bullies. It's that simple.
She's coming to collect a debt.
A debt paid in blood and shattered chrome, as the dossier puts it. E.D.E.N views her as a misallocation of resources because her aggression is targeting them. But to Yomi and to the people in the Fringe, she represents the anger of everyone who has been stepped on. She is the storm that blows back.
So, putting this all together, Rasheeda Jones, the Berserker. What does she represent in the grand scheme of this story? We've seen super soldiers in fiction before. What makes her unique?
She is the ultimate example of E.D.E.N's hubris. Think about it. They tried to take the most raw human instincts, the instinct to survive, to fight back, and they tried to monetize it. They tried to turn survival into a product.
And they created their own worst enemy.
Literally. They took a fighter, gave her godlike power, and then gave her a reason to hate them. She proves that you can't patent the human soul, you can't code compliance into someone who has nothing left to lose.
It's the classic Frankenstein story, isn't it? But the monster knows kung fu and has a healing factor.
And importantly, the monster isn't the villain. The creator is. Rasheeda matters to us, to you listening, because she represents that part of us that refuses to be managed. The part that refuses to be dampened or told to calm down when things are unjust.
She proved that control was always an illusion.
Exactly. You can build the perfect cage, you can install the perfect software, but you can't code out the will to fight.
E.D.E.N. tried to turn her into a weapon to maintain order. But this raises the final provocative question for everyone listening.
What happens when the weapon decides that the order itself is the enemy?
That's a terrifying thought for the people in the ivory towers.
Okay.
As Yummy says in his final broadcast log, pray you're not standing in the way.
Indeed. If you see the storm coming, don't try to stop it. Just get out of the path.
That's a wrap on Rasheeda Jones,
Yeah.
a hurricane with a heartbeat. Thanks for diving deep with us. Keep your frequencies open.
Stay sovereign.